Welcome back, Shalligators. Today, we're going to talk about cults and dancing. You don't want to see me dancing, honey. You definitely don't want to see me run a cult because I'm mediocre at both. We're going to talk about the new Netflix documentary about the 7M TikTok cult. I know. What is this? What are these times we're living in? I mean, if Jesus is going to come back, or, you know, any god, maybe Zeus, I don't know. I just feel like maybe we're in a good zone for that. Anyway, apparently there's a cult masquerading as a management company that is comprised primarily of TikTok dancers. Just like body rolling, and they're body rolling, and they're popping, and they're locking, and they're culting, and they're being oppressed. It's cool. It's not cool. It's actually horrific. And this documentary, I thought it was going to be kind of a clown show because fucking TikTok dancers, come on. But it was heart-wrenching. It really was. If you haven't watched it on Netflix, you absolutely should. Because even if you're not into TikTok or dancing, I bet you have experienced a dynamic much like the people who are watching their loved ones get swept away in this cult. And you might be thinking, I actually don't know anyone in a cult. Do you know anyone in a bad relationship? Do you know anyone in a toxic dynamic of any kind? Or someone who's just sort of addicted to something that is very corrosive? Maybe they're just like an over-the-top Swiftie. Or they have like some weird dogma about a religion or CrossFit or veganism, and it's gone past the point of like, okay, they're devotional, they're really into this, and it has become corrosive, and it's become this line in the sand that either you're in or you're out. And if you are not a friend, you are an enemy. And I'm going to tell you what doctors and scientists and psychologists have said, pooling their knowledge about how to get someone out of a cult. And again, you don't have to know anyone in a cult. I hope that you don't. But you can just know someone in that shitty relationship who is maybe a little too unhealthily obsessed with something. How do you approach them? And I really needed to do my research on this because my first instinct was, fuck them. Whatever. But it's not that easy when it's someone who's your sister, like the girls who are in the 7M TikTok cult, or it's a parent, or it's a child, or it's someone you just care about. And maybe you're not a reptile on the inside like I am. Maybe you're not. We're going to get into it. I'm going to break down what's going on in this cult. I do have kind of a controversial opinion. When do I not? You might be surprised in my opinion about this whole thing. But yeah, we're going to talk about how to get someone out of a really toxic, culty dynamic. Step by step, what do you do? I got the answer. But before we get into it, just a quick word from today's sponsor. Shalligators, prepare to be surprised. I am very vain. I am. And listen, I'm also kind of a hippie chick at heart. Not on the outside though. I love sustainability and I love planet Earth. People are the worst. The Earth, she's the best. So I'm always looking for beauty products that are both efficient and useful and satisfy the glamour puss within, and are also really earth friendly. So let me tell you about one that I found. Wild. Oh, is this not so pretty? Wild makes natural deodorant and body wash. It is safe, paraben free, free of aluminum salts, and just like the gross things that are really terrible and toxic. It's also vegan and cruelty free. And let me show you why I love this. Okay, see, this is empty. Yeah, you put in your own little refills. How cute is this? This scent is honey and cactus flower. I have another one that's pink, grapefruit, and lime. It matches my outfit. You can switch it out. Plus, they make body wash. Oh, look at these refills. And you can get the little container. You can have it engraved and personalized. As someone with a weird name, this delights me more than it should. I love it. So if you want to do something that's great for the earth, great for your body, and save 20%, use my code SHALLON20 to get your big old discount. Because listen, we should never have to decide between vanity and the Mother Earth that we love so well. And with Wild, you don't have to. Thank you, Shallon. All right, let's talk about this TikTok cult. So it centers around two sisters, Melanie and Miranda Wilking, and they are like TikTok dancers, very, very close. I don't know, are they twins? They could be twins. They are that close. And you see how their career started and how just like close they were. And their family seems very normal, very healthy. No one's outwardly in poverty, which can really affect someone's need to be part of a gang. You know, there's a reason gang members come from broken homes. They want to be part of a family. Everybody does. These girls seem to have a very healthy upbringing. And I think that's what caught everyone in her life off guard, is like, what was the need inside her that got her looped into this church? Okay, so it's run by this guy, Robert Shin, and it's called the Shekinah Church. And it's a cult that, masquerades as a management company. And so they looped in all these TikTok dancers who have the most ridiculous names, like B-Dash. This man's name is James Derrick, and he goes by B-Dash? What? Why? Give me the etymology. It's like if I went by Scorpion. Why? Anyway, and B-Dash was actually instrumental in getting one of the Wilkins sisters in there because he was dating Miranda. And Melanie, her sister, and her parents found themselves gradually and then seemingly like kind of all at once pushed out of Miranda's life, just cut off, blocked on networks, no communication. She wouldn't come to her grandfather's funeral. Like, I'm not gonna like recap the whole thing because it's like a lot of episodes and I just honestly don't remember a ton of all the details. And it kind of doesn't matter because, you know, these people are just sort of vehicles for our overall learning. But as I was watching this, I had a thought. It's her life, man. Now listen, do I think that this church is healthy or positive? No. I don't think anything that isolates you from anyone or anything is healthy or positive. Because this is what I've always said about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. How I know I hate her and she's an abusive, awful person is she isolated him from his family. And the comeback is always, well, his family was toxic. Let's say that that's true. Okay, let's say that is 100% true. That is on him to do. That work should happen in his own bubble. He shouldn't need a church, a wife, a friend, a partner to do that work for him. That should be a conclusion he reaches, that he can sit down with these people and communicate. It shouldn't be the thing where he ghosts, where he's ghosting out and he's making these radical changes and like shoving Meghan forward as, you know, the person to take the bullet, as the scapegoat for this. And she is. I mean, if that is really true, he's letting her take the L for that. And with Miranda leaving her family behind and all of her friends and everything she's known, if they really are that toxic, she should be able to have a very clear conversation about it. Wouldn't you think? Wouldn't you think? Like, hey, mom and dad, you guys were so incredibly hard on me growing up that I don't even know who I am outside of this family. I need some space. She was never saying that. And so that's how, to me, that typifies like the difference between a cult and a group and coercive control of these cults and people you actually just do need to separate from. But as I said, it's her life. And we are going to encounter people our entire existence who are just living wrong according to us. What are you doing? What are you doing? Whether it's their haircut, their religion, their non-binary. We're always going to look around this world and be like, why? Why are you doing that? You should not be allowed to do that. And you know what? Maybe that's true. Maybe their haircut and their fake gender that they made up and their way they exercise in their church and whatever, maybe it is wrong. Maybe it's just wrong. But it's their decision to make. And again, I know that this is a very unpopular opinion. To look at someone getting into a cult and be like, you know what? That's what they want. But why? I don't know why. I don't know why. Why do some people like Birkenstocks? I have no idea, but they're allowed to wear them, okay? I'm not gonna wear them. Don't try and put them on my feet. But they are allowed to make these decisions. And of course the pushback is, but they're coercive decisions. That's true. That is true. But this is the unfortunate part about, you know, dealing with adults. They can do whatever they want. And maybe she is genuinely happier. She keeps saying she is. I'm happy. I'm not in a cult. I'm not under, you know, control. No one's controlling me. I'm happy. Hey, man. Maybe she is. Do we honestly have the right to try to deprogram people from the things that make them happy? Because hold on, let's pull out. Let's look from a top-down view. Once upon a time, At some point in history, the way you live your life was wrong. It was wrong. Maybe you show your knees and ankles. Oh, slut. That was completely wrong. Maybe you're Jewish or Protestant or Catholic or whatever. That was wrong, 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 wrong. Maybe you're working. Maybe you don't cover your hair. Maybe you choose not to have children. Maybe you had sex before marriage. Wrong, 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 wrong. At some point in history, people would have tried to deprogram you. At best, they might have just executed you, thrown you in jail, cast you out of society completely. So who are we, honestly, to look at people in these, from our purview, incredibly bizarre organizational structures and say that's wrong? Maybe they're not to them. Maybe that is actually what works. And we talk about this a lot here on the channel. People are drawn to what works versus what makes them happy. We are a risk machine, right? We talk about this all the time. The brain is a risk machine. And so we want to be in a situation where things are fairly predictable and stable. That's kind of a cult. I've been reading a lot about these kinds of things. And one psychologist wrote this whole dissertation. I read most of it. It's actually pretty boring, but I did read it. About the root of like the cult, the lure of the cult is exactly what we think we're trying to rescue people from, which is the mindlessness of it. You don't have a life of your own. You don't have a mind of your own. That's the point. That's actually the whole deal. That's the whole selling point. You don't have to have a mind of your own. You don't have to make decisions. You don't have to go find a job and deal with a boss and the ups and downs of corporate dynamic. You don't even have to go out and find a boyfriend. We'll find one for you. And then when you have a baby, we're here for you too. You don't have to figure out, how to parent and rummage through the wilderness of that whole thing. We got you. And hey, in exchange, you're gonna till some fields and you're gonna give 80% of your income to us and you're gonna wear these weird androgynous white robes and you might have to kill yourself. But you are not gonna have to risk much. And for people who are very risk averse, a cult sounds fine. It sounds like a big giant fucking cruise ship. Big old all-inclusive vacation. I have to make very few decisions here. I get very little choice. I get very little freedom. What was I gonna do with that freedom anyway? Just mess it up? Bungle it completely? Or just constantly in and out of this mental gymnastics of well, should I try this? And that might fail. Well, what about if I try this and that? I don't know if I can put myself out there. For some people, it's simply too much. The world is too much. They need to go back into an incubator. They can't do it. And you look at these TikTok people, right? These professional dancers, and they're so incredibly talented. Hold on, let's unpack that real quick. They're basically kind of like professional athletes, wherein they have spent the entirety of their existence focusing on one thing. Practice over and over and over, up early in the morning for lessons, practice after school, they're dancing at home, they're filming, they're doing this. Practice, practice, practice. And I think very tellingly, one of the home movies that the Wilkins sisters were showing, the dad in the background, and they were 4. He was like, posture, girls, posture, when they were dancing. I was like, there it is. There it is. And that's the beginning and the end of all of it. I bet Miranda was like, I have to get away from this oppression. I have been barked orders at my whole life. Just, yes, 5, 6, 7, 8, just everyone's counting my life out for me. I can't do this. And yet you end up right back there with a daddy who's even worse because you are drawn to what you know. What we fear, we create. The mind is a software. It's a computer. And you know what it's programmed with? The past. And that past programming is used to write a program that's going to spit out the future that's based on the past. So, hey, I've always had a man in my ear telling me he knows better. Let me just tell you what to do. Let me tell you when to do it, and things are going to turn out great. Okay, perfect. Is it a coincidence she got married young? No. Least surprising thing ever. But let's go back to these dancers. So they all kind of have this pathology. They're practicing and practicing and practicing. I've dated a lot of professional athletes and they are like children. They're kind of like children. Like they don't know if they can if the water is safe to drink. They've never been to prom. They've never been to Europe unless it was for a hockey tournament. Everything they did was through the lens of hockey. Hockey was just the vehicle to everything. And when they get out of this sport, there's a reason so many athletes just burn out when they retire. They don't have any other skills. They don't have any other life view. And it's funny, the world looks at them as so accomplished, and they are, but in such a hyper-specific way that they have zero other skills. Zero. They certainly don't have book smarts. I mean, academics were not the thing. They don't have real world skills. They're not street smart usually. So it's actually not that surprising that they would get scooped up into a cult, because when you think of the typical cult person, the cult member, I think of cults in the 60s, and it's runaways, people who are really sheltered, PTSD soldiers after Vietnam, people on the fringes, people who didn't really have a place, and people who kind of didn't know who they were. And you look at these TikTok dancers and you take that vibe and you add on fame. Let me tell you, I'm not nearly as Insta famous or internet famous as these people. And this career drains me. It is constant. It is a constant. How do I do this? There is no autopilot. There's no autopilot. There's no one I can offload anything to. There's no one who's picking up the slack unless I specifically tell them how to do it, and then I have to micromanage the whole thing. There's no daddy. There's no daddy. And maybe because I didn't have an actual daddy. This is all, is this therapy right now? I am more equipped to handle this, I think, because I was a New Yorker, and I have a very high chaos tolerance. We've talked about this a lot. Also, I'm a lot older. I'm a fully formed person. And so the slings and arrows of this career, they don't affect me the way they would have if I were 21 years old, 22. And then you look at the business side of it and the spiritual side where it's listen, man is a nightmare. They're mean and they say these horrible things to you online. All glory to God. It's not a coincidence that as I have gotten more successful in this career, I have gotten much more religious, much more religious. I'm not wearing my cross right now, actually. Sorry. I've gotten much more religious because it's I need a spiritual centering in the chaos of this career. And again, I'm not even close to the level they're at. And I'm older and I'm smarter and I'm meaner. All of this means they were ripe for the picking. And again, this might actually be a great fit. It might be a good fit. Hey, I'm going to take care of your spiritual needs, your housing needs, all these things. You're I have to find an apartment and my IKEA furniture. I got it. I'm even going to tell you what songs to dance to. I'm going to set up all your brand deals. I'm going to get you a great deal. And you just got to write some checks. As someone who runs my own business, I pay a lot to not have to think about something. I have someone mowing my lawn right now. He's do you want me to use this or that? I was I don't fucking care. I don't care. Just, I never want to have to think about this again for the rest of my life, okay? I will pay you whatever you ask me to because I have no idea. And I'm not going to go and do all this market research about what it costs to mow your lawn. Just do it. And if I'm paying 50% more than average, I don't care. This is off my plate. I have to get back to what I need to do. And I'm like that with a lot of things. And again, I'm a grown-up. So for these people, I think it's very easy for the outsiders to be why would they let someone have that control? That probably seems very peaceful for them, restful. And yes, of course, as you grow up and you have someone is looking at this one dude's financials and it's you basically gave them $100,000 and he's yeah, and that was brutal to watch. Not as brutal as those poor Korean sisters. Oh, also one named Melanie. What if these people only prey on folks named Melanie? And because some girl when he was 7 rejected him and her name was Melanie. He's I'll get all the Melanies out there one by one. You never know. It seems crazy, but does it? Yeah, these poor Korean girls who were kind of orphans, like not enough orphans that they would have like maybe gone into the foster system and actually had a shot at parents. No, they had a dad who abandoned them and a mom who would disappear for a month. And they were like 10. Crazy. So they got scooped up into the Korean church, which turned out to be a cult, and were working like 100 hours a week for $10, something crazy, you know? And it just broke my heart when one of them got out fairly quickly. The other one stayed in for 23 years. And the sister who got out, I think that was Priscilla, she was coming down on her sister for being late to her the daughter's birthday party. And the sister, Melanie, who'd been in for so long, was crying. She's like, I don't know what you mean when you say, it's my daughter, like you love her. She's like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means to love a child. My heart shattered for her. That was I felt so bad for her. Her whole life has been taken from her. Her whole life. She was like, I don't know what it means to love a child. She probably doesn't know what it means to love anybody. She's so stunted and broken. She's like a ghost. She's a ghost. So of course you look at that and you're like, all right, this clearly isn't like a benevolent daddy just taking over. But I do come back kind of to the concept of like, you know what? People are going to like it until they don't. And don't we see this with our friends dating nightmare guys? Don't we see it in ourselves? And maybe that is what fuels this like rage over the culty people. The things we hate in others are the things we hate in ourselves. And I go bananas when I see one of my friends dating a shitty guy. I lose it. I can't take it. I wonder why. When they see the writing on the wall and they're like, wow, but I love him. Do you? Do you, Abby? You love him? Yeah. And then I turn around the mirror, I'm like, but I love him. It's the worst. And you know, it's the worst because when you're in it, there are very, very few things people can say to you that are going to move the needle. Sometimes you're just not done till you're done. But I think we could take a bit more optimistic view of this, okay? Because like I said, we've got some empirical research on what to do when someone is in some sort of cult situation. Now, I had to research this because, yeah, like I said, my vibe was fuck them, whatever, do whatever you want. I don't care. And because that's the attitude I've tried to take towards my friends and their dating lives. If they are dating someone who is the most awful, like if they are just sucky and this person refuses to see it, I cannot be friends with them. It's too triggering. Given what I do for a living, given how I also do these things in my own personal life, I can't because I will end up nagging and barking orders and shaming them. And that's not good for anyone because it has the adverse effect. It just pushes them closer to this person. You want them to leave. There are very few people in my life I will stay around when they are just acting a fool. Very few, very few. Maybe it's because I'm an only child and I don't have the built-in elasticity that comes when you have a sibling and you're used to sticking it out. You're used to good times and bad times and still being a unit. I'm not used to that. I'm just maybe too much of a leaver. I don't know, but it's very hard for me. So the advice I'm going to share from these doctors, this would be almost impossible for me to execute. I'm just being honest. If you can do this, good. Then again, I have the luxury of never having to watch like truly the people I love most in the world. My husband, my mom, my grandparents, whatever. And like my few besties really, really get taken by a con artist, a cult, an abusive person. You know, like I have not had to get a front row seat to that. If I had, no, I wouldn't write off my mom or, you know, my husband if he was, no, I would not have done that. So, but maybe I guess I've just lucked out. Okay, so this is an article from Psychology Today called The Definitive Guide to Helping People Trapped in a Cult by Dr. Stephen Hassan. So the overall advice here is don't go hard. I know you want to. I know you want to. This is a game of strategy. You're not playing checkers. You're playing motherfucking chess, okay? And I know that this is difficult. I know this is difficult because you don't feel neutrally and objectively, which is the mindset you have to have in order to cultivate strategy, right? But that is the advice here. Like, if you go in hot, what are you doing? Don't do this. This is crazy. What are you doing? They just recede. They just recede. So let's look at things to do first. They break it down. Formulate a plan. Research cults and coercive control. Don't make the mistake of trying to rationally argue. They kind of contradict this a little later. Learn about mind control techniques and which communication strategies are most effective. Don't fly blindly. Helping a person will be a process requiring patience, effort, flexibility, and love. I have none of these things inside of me. Number 2, build a rapport and trust. Obviously, ideally, you already have this with someone. You want to position yourself as an open door, right? Not the big heavy, rah, rah, rah. Every time we get together, she's coming down on me. And listen, that's what Miranda said in this documentary. She basically told her parents, because they reunited, but the sister's like, no, like it's the most surface level bullshit ever. Like, no, like we can see her here and there. And if we ever bring up something about the cult, it's like, I'm leaving it. This is going to be like a nag session. I get it. Honestly, I'm on her side with that. Who wants to be around anybody when they've got this agenda and this rhetoric and it's like again and again, they're hammering it home. And maybe it has nothing to do with your cult that you're in because you're probably not in one. Maybe it's, when are you having a baby? When are you having a baby? When are you getting married? Why don't you look better? Haven't you lost weight? What did you spend your money on? Who wants to be around that person? Who wants to be around that person? I know that can be a difficulty when we call our parents and the first thing they say is, well, didn't think you still had this number because I just never hear from you. And you're like, I don't even want to call you because it's going to be this every time. I'm calling you now. This doesn't make me want to call you next week because it's going to be, well, who is this? Who is this? Did I have a granddaughter? It's very repellent. We know this. Okay, we know this. We know it. So don't do it. And that's difficult. I get it. Do what you can to remove or minimize media that continually indoctrinates them to only one point of view. So say your loved one or whatever isn't in a cult. Maybe they're like QAnon, or of that ilk, and they're just down a liberal fucking rabbit hole like you would not believe. Here's one thing you can do. Suggest going on a cleanse. This is the point they get to a little bit later, so we'll just cover it now. Make it seem like a group thing, not like you need to log out of Reddit. Be like, you know what, girl? Make it sound like it's your idea. Make it sound like it's all about you. I just feel like I'm so overwhelmed and news is so bad. And it's like, I know I need to know what's going on, but I just need a break. Will you do like a news cleanse with me just for like a week and a half, longer? Like, I just know I need a buddy and I know you would be like good because I know you're not like addicted to news. Lie. You're lying. It doesn't matter. But like, can we just do this together? Can we just like delete Reddit off our phone for 2 weeks and just see if we feel better? Because I am just like so full of anxiety. You're not attacking them. You're not asking them to defend themselves with their beliefs. You're giving them a chance to be a helper, to have some personal power. Ooh, that's good. That's real good. Okay, here are things to do during your conversations with this person. Ask thought-provoking questions while being warm and curious. Adopt a tone of curiosity and interest in their positions. Keep conversation positive, productive, and civil. Never get angry. Never get angry. Don't tell them anything. Help them make discoveries on their own. How can you do this? How can you do this? Again, this is not my strong suit. I love telling people things that I love getting angry. Here's something you can do. Because with a cult, the math ain't ever mathin'. The math ain't mathin'. So if this cult is, say, promising someone freedom, you know, I just have all this freedom. I have all this freedom. You know, I'm happy. I'm free. You can be like, okay, I love that you feel that way. Hold on now. Can I ask you like real talk? Can I ask you like a real talk question? If you keep it bubbly and light, people don't know what the fuck is coming next. And they'll be like, yeah. Be like, I know that you want freedom. That's amazing. Who doesn't? I love that for you. But they like clock you in and out, you know? Like they monitor when you leave and tell you what you can eat and wear. I mean, girl, it wasn't like that when we were 12. So does that kind of like get under your skin a little bit? In the moment, they're gonna be like, nope, I love it. I don't need to pick my own food and underwear. But they're going to, as one former cult member described it, it's a shelf. Aren't these peonies beautiful? They're real. Aren't they beautiful? I muled them back from California in my checked bag, like 35 peonies. It's great. It's like, this lady, she's like, it's like a shelf. And I would set all of my my reservations on this shelf in the back of my mind. And at some point that shelf got heavy and boom, it collapsed and all hell broke loose. And the math just ain't mathin' anymore. And it took me much longer than anyone wanted it to, but I did get there. So that's how you kind of have to think of it. When you bring these things up, it's like, no, I'm just curious. Like, I don't know. Kind of seems like picking your own clothes is like part of freedom, you know? Like I wouldn't want it if like Jeff picked my outfits for the day, but okay. And then you breeze out of that. You breeze out of there. Like, so did you see the new Kardashians trailer? Oh, that's right. You can't watch TV. Whatever. You want to just like land in these little like, here's a random logical thought, and then breeze right back out as quickly as possible. More than anything, you want to keep the lines of communication open. And yeah, this is going to require a lot of like zipping of the lip on your part. And you know what I think about this, which is what I think about anything when I have to take the high road, as I hate it up there. It's so unfair. It's so unfair that you have to do all of these mental gymnastics to deal with this person and all this strategy and blah, blah, blah. And they get to be a dick to you. They get to cut you off. They're tyrants. And it's funny. It's interesting. And maybe it makes all the sense in the world that like they're being so controlled. And so now that they have this power over you to make or break your family, your marriage, your friendships, are they like, just like drunk on it? Are they getting off on that? Maybe. I think we know that people who are drawn into cults probably feel very little personal power of their own. So when they get the chance to do that, are they just like, fuck yeah, and they're just loving it? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe a little bit. But I think it's normal that you would feel like, this is so unfair. I have to read all these articles and come up with a strategy and like, zip my lip when my friend here is telling me that there's lizard people who have taken over my body because QAnon says so. And I just have to be like, yeah, maybe birds are robots. Maybe they are. And you know what, girl? You don't. I know this is unpopular. This is part of my unpopular opinion ecosystem in this video. You don't have to have these people in your life. Even if they are your sister or your dad or your best friend, if that gets under your skin in a way that is so incredibly disruptive, you deserve to be peaceful. They're peaceful, or at least they say so. And you know what? Okay. Sometimes we just take people at face value. You said you're happy? Cool. Because let's take this back to dating. When we've tried to fix a man, how many of them have even asked us to fix them? Well, I know he's unhappy. That's not what I said. Have they asked you to fix them? Please fix me. Help me be sober and stay sober. Please help me not cheat. Please help me be a good communicator. Please help me be thoughtful. Have they said that? No. Well, they said they want to be sober and a good communicator and faithful. Okay. Have they asked you to do that? No. I am willing to bet a lot of money. No, they actually haven't. Because if they had, they wouldn't be so fucking punchy about it. They would be compliant. We know what it's like to try to fix and save. And we know how thankless it is and maddening and ultimately corrosive to that relationship. Where we look at them and we're like, fuck you. Like, do you have any idea what I've given for you? And then we become a martyr, don't we? Because it's bottomless. There is no way they can refill our cup because we've gone into such a deficit to try to prop them up. There's nothing left of us. We're a bottomless pit of resentment and bitterness and wasted time. And again, they weren't even asking. They weren't even asking. So if you're dealing with someone who's down bad in some way, honestly, heavily consider walking away. And I understand. These people, it's like, she's my sister and her husband's hitting her. I obviously that's, yes, I understand plugging into that. Yeah. But if you're dealing with like a run-of-the-mill person who's living wrong, and remember, they get to determine what right and wrong means in their life. I know. Even if it's like, they have so much potential, they could be so happy. You assume that they want to be happy. You assume that they want to be happy. You and I do. Shalligators do. Because we're the 1% of 1% in terms of self-awareness, cognition, leveling up, perky tits, glossy lips, all of it. We're the 1%. We are the elites. And we don't get it. We don't get it when people don't want to like get better. Why wouldn't you want to be better? Why wouldn't you want your life to be as magical as possible? I don't understand this. I don't understand this. And like we've discussed in our videos about war and evil week, your opponent, sorry, my lawnmower is actually outside. So if you hear a rumble, that's what it is. I can't stop it. You always must assess your opponent. Are they looking for peace or victory? Do they want to be right or do they want to be happy? These people caught up in these cults, they want to be right. They want to be right. I know you could show them a way to live better that's maybe would lead to happiness. It's not what they want. And if that's who you're dealing with, sometimes it is healthier to walk away and be like, you know what? They will wake up if and when they feel like it. Maybe this doesn't have to be my job. Maybe I don't need to throw myself in the line of fire and be the messenger that gets shot. And maybe I can just love them for who they used to be or where they're at, or I could just kind of put this on ice until something changes. It's very difficult. But I am always about you guys first. I'm always about you protecting yourself first, serving yourself first. Your energy is meant for you first. You first. Getting someone out of a cult is an amazing extra credit once you're making straight A's in every other category of your life. But if you're not, keep yourself to yourself. And again, of course, like your absolute loved ones feel like an exception to this, but maybe just allow for the possibility that even them, that if it's your mom and she's dating a guy and it's like maybe he's using her for her money, if she's happy and she doesn't mind, yeah, she's spending all her money. I know. But I think that there's some great tips that we've covered, and I can put this in a comment. But yeah, if you go to Psychology Today, it's called The Definitive Guide to Helping People Trapped in a Cult. Okay? Psychology Today has tons of like articles on this, but this was definitely the best. Here's another one. Try to connect them with their authentic identity before they had these extreme beliefs. Do you remember when we would go down to the creek and we would catch tadpoles and we would name them after Disney princesses? You know, remind them of the before times. But listen, they don't say this in here, but I'm gonna say the before times might have been what fueled their running off into this cult. Like maybe those times that you thought were good was when they were getting molested and they actually don't wanna go back there. You don't know, but I think overall this is like very good advice. Like remind them who they are without this, because that's the thing. This cult is giving them such an identity. Another tip, give them a group to bounce into. It is very difficult to leave the downy, amniotic coziness of a very, very tight group. Very tight group. You kind of got to have another group to just like, bloop, like hop over into. Think about dating. It's always easiest to leave a shitty guy when you just met an amazing one. But the idea of leaving him, it's like, well, then I'm alone and I have no one. Sorry, it's my lawnmower outside. Overall, don't get discouraged. People do leave. They leave bad relationships, they leave cults. Are they doing it on our timeline? No. Does anyone ever do anything on our timeline? Also no. Also no. So focus on yourself. Make sure you are whole and stable, because listen, they could suck you in. I know that happens a lot. If you are in like a very like triggered place, you're emotional, you're unstable, you're very susceptible to coercion. I get it, I get it. So just make sure that, again, your energy is always going towards you. What do you guys have to say about this cult? Did you watch this documentary? Are you of the mindset, it's like, hey man, if that's what they want to live, let them live, let them live. Or would you fight tooth and nail forever to get your sister or loved one out of that situation? And how do you deal with these things on the micro? A friend in a bad relationship, someone who's way obsessed with CrossFit, even though it's destroying their body. What do you do? And just a reminder, there's the last week to book our trips to Italy. We have about 2 spaces left on each trip. I'm doing an Ask Me Anything on my Instagram stories right now, so head to ShallonXL on Instagram for all the information you might need. All right, I'll see you later, Shalligators.